Welcome back to another episode of the KE55 Coroll Build. I'm at a point where I don't exactly know what I'm going to do to fix this rust. In a perfect world, if I had the right equipment and if I had the right skills, etc., I would imagine we would cut out a panel here and weld in a new piece to get rid of that rust completely. This roof, as it flows down, has a little lip here that's shaped and it goes all the way along the water track. I'm not skilled enough to be able to replicate that with the limited tools that I have. So what I've done is I've sanded it all back and I've metal wheeled it and grinded all of the surface rust off. I then hit it with a few really good coats of rust converter, and that's now completely cured and ready for the next step. So what I'm going to use is not metal patches, but I will be using a fiberglass filler. The fiberglass filler is going to be much better than just typical old bog, which I absolutely hate. It's not going to shrink anywhere near as much, and it's going to have a much stronger bond to bare metal. So I'm going to have to sand this down again or wire brush the coating of the rust converter off so that it's got a really good strong steel surface to bond to. And we're going to fill it with fiberglass filler. It's not what I really want to do, but you know, for the project as it is and the time it's going to take me to learn how to patch. I mean, I know how to patch weld stuff on panels and whatnot and wheel guards, that's easy, but when it comes to this kind of area, I'm going to have to cut right through this whole sill. I can make a cut on top and I can make a cut down the bottom, no problem at all. But cutting through here with a grinder, that's going to cut right into this piece. There's going to be a heck of a lot of repair work and a lot of shaping involved to get that shape right. That's why I'm choosing to go with the fiberglass filler. So before everyone starts yelling at me saying you should do it with metal patches, which I agree, I'm not a full-blown body shop, and it's not going to happen. So it's still going to be fine. It's still going to be rust converted. It's not like more rust is going to come through in this area anytime soon. So let's get at it and try and get this part looking a little bit more presentable, because right now it looks like arse. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start wire brushing this all the way down and get all this primer off it so that it's got a nice metal surface to bond and adhere to. I'll see you when that is finished. All right, and here we are again. So these have all been sanded down just in the areas that I need the holes filled. Sadly, there's a lot of areas that need filling, but you know, comes with the territory on a 40-something-year-old car. Behind these panels, I've put in some tape on the inside so that when the filler goes in, it's not going to go all through the inside of the car. It's going to stay nice and flush. That is pretty important for me. I don't want to have to go digging around in there and get rid of all the rest of the ooze that goes through the panel. I'll just double check that all the tape's still nice and adhered on there. And then we're just going to mix up the metal tech and start doing small areas at once. I don't want to make up a big batch and then be working with a filler that's going off. So let's get that cracking. All right, so here we go. Mix this up. If you want to learn how to mix Bondo, body filler, bog or whatever, just watch some YouTube tutorials. I'm sure you don't have to listen to me tell you again. Gonna get a little bit, squish it into there. Just, not a massive amount, but just enough to fill it up. And we're going to go back over this with some normal filler, just because this stuff has got such a good strong bond on it, and it dries so tough that it's going to be very hard to sand. So I'm going to just do the smallest amount I can to get the job done, and then over the top of it we'll just use some standard, some standard filler. And it won't be much. I hate bog. I hate doing this. This feels like just, this feels like do as I say, not as I do kind of scenario. It's blasphemy. I dislike bog on cars, but in this particular case, unless I go and pay someone a lot of money to do this, this is going to do the job for me. So I'm trying to make this as neat as possible so that there's as little sanding to be done, because this stuff, like I said, is a pain in the rear end to sand. The next step is going to be using maybe 240 grit sandpaper, maybe even a bit more coarse, maybe 200 grit or something, 180, and we're just going to knock this down as flat as we can. It's not going to be the biggest problem in the world if we go down into the dents a little bit, because I will be putting a very thin layer of normal filler over the top. But I don't have that sandpaper here. I've only got 400, and I'm not going to sit here for 10 years trying to sand this fresh stuff down with 400. So I need to pop out and go grab some and come back and start sanding. So just got back from Autobahn. I didn't know which grit that I wanted to use, so I got a few pieces of each, 80, 180, and 240. So I'm going to start with some 80 and see if that works all right. Sometimes going too low a grit of the sandpaper can not only make it clog up and make a big mess, but the scratches become too deep and you end up chasing your tail around in circles. So I'll try this. If it's not too bad, then we'll move on to the 180. Personally, I think the 180 is the way to go. 180. Yeah, 180. Personally, I think the 180 is the way to go, and we'll go from there and see what needs to be done next. So I am using wet dry sandpaper, so having water is essential. It just keeps everything dust free and seems to, sandpaper lasts a bit longer without clogging up and all the fun stuff. So I've got the paper soaking. Let's get at it. The 80 seems to be cutting through that, not too bad at all. I am going back down to metal, which is fine. I've got surface primer for that. So let's just keep sanding this down. This might take a while. So, yeah, wish me luck. Just going to try something real quick. I'm going to use a Dremel with a stone tip on the end of it and see if I can just knock off some of the big high spots that are on the it's on the sill, so there's less sanding involved. A normal sandpaper tip would wear down, you have to replace it a lot, but I found the stone ones work quite well at taking off those big chunks, and the stone tip doesn't actually wear down. Let's give it a go. Well, that worked really well. I managed to literally just take off all the bulky product and leave only what was necessary behind, which now I can go over with the sandpaper, and that's just saved me a lot of sanding. So I'll make that nice and smooth. Next step will probably be, well, let's just get it smooth first and we'll work about the next step. That's awesome. I got my shape down pat, which is really good. If anything, there's low spots, not high spots. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that little rim right here that pops up, that's looking not too bad for my work. Not too bad. So I'm going to hit this with some etch primer just over the bare metal and have a look at it, and then I will be applying a small amount, like a skim layer of filler over that, just so that when it is sanded down it'll be nice and smooth and look kind of, you know, correct. So we'll do that now. Now that's looking a heck of a lot better. It's time for a skim coat of filler primer. It's time to make up a quick batch of filler, and I'm going to use my finger to smear it into the shape I want on the panel, and then a lot more sanding to do. So now that I've done my smearing of a very, very fine layer of body filler, it's gone right down into the channels here and just kind of filled any slight bumps that would have come with, you know, the factory seam welds, and also any scungy rusty bits that I've sorted out. So the next step is now to wait for this to cure really well and then sand the daylights out of all that filler, just so I get the right shape and the curvature in this roof panel. That's going to be a big job. But after that, I'll be able to prime it and then move on to the rest of the bodywork. So this is a big job that I'm happy is kind of out of the way now. Well, after a good 45 minutes of sanding, the profile of this is looking really good. Most, I think 90% of the filler that I've put on has been shaved right back, and only the little bits that were kind of divots are left now. Also, a little bit of the filler in the actual channel has helped smooth out that channel, so once paint goes on, it's going to be a really nice smooth convex shape, and the rain and the water will just, you know, drip straight out of here like it should. So now we are going to hit it with a primer, and then we can continue on with other parts of the car. So once the primer goes on, that's going to be it for the top section until I come to actually primer surface the whole car and start block sanding everything, and that way we'll start working into this corner again once that process starts. So let's get the primer on here and we'll be done with the top sills, thank goodness. And that's where it's going to stay until I'm ready to do more bodywork. The paint's kind of half drying, so it looks a little bit more ripply than what it is, but on camera it actually doesn't look 100%. Well, it's not 100%, but it's a definite pass in my book. Once she dries, it's going to be lovely. So all this is now ready to be, I guess, bodyworked and shaped and undercoated and filler primed and block sanded. Like I said at the beginning, I do wish that I could have welded all of that in, but like I said, I don't have the skill to do it or the tools. I've got a welder, but it's a bit too strong and probably burn through everything. Plus I don't have the right tools for shaping. I don't have the right tools for you know, cutting such intricate cuts out of this hard to work on area and then bending that shape back in. But nevertheless, it's been rust treated quite a bit, filled with the fiberglass filler, so it's not going to shrink on me and cause cracks, which is great, and only in the little holes that needed it. And then the rest was just typical bodywork that would have happened regardless of the rust. So the primer on top, slight skim of filler, and then a sandback, that all would have been done anyway. Well, that takes care of that. Oh yeah, and by the way, this side's done too. You don't need to see me do two sides. This one, the only difference is I haven't actually done the step of the filler skim over the top and then sand it back again. I'm gonna leave that till I do the rest of the roof. But we're done skis. I'm gonna pack up, clean up, get a little dust out of my nose.